Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. Tonight, we will explore the Washington Capitals winning a Stanley Cup. We'll also talk about Marc-Andre Fleury, Hall of Fame status, and what this last run did for him. Some say it was a negative the way he played in the finals. Others disagree. We'll get into that. We'll talk about some football news because the rift in New England between Brady Belichick and TB12 and Julian Edelman, all sorts of stuff going on there. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Pirates, who won today, but they've lost 7 series in a row. And here is your panel left to right on your television screen. Paul Zeise from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and Sports Radio 93.7 The Fan to the left. In the middle, it is Mr. Will Graves from the Associated Press, and to the right, Chris Mack, host of the pre- and post-game shows for the Pirates on 93.7 The Fan. All right, Chris, let's get right into it. They've lost 7 series in a row. Are they pretty much dead now, or will they respond and come back?
Well, some of the response has to come from the guys above the guys on the field. In other words, management. Some of the moves have to be made that are difficult moves for them to make, like Sean Rodriguez, who's a 160-something hitter over the course of the last year, has to be looked at as not a 25th man on the roster anymore, but 26th. In other words, he just doesn't belong on this roster anymore. Giving Gregory Polanco as many at-bats as Corey Dickerson and Austin Meadows is still foolish, despite the fact that he came through with a big hit today. Optioning Nick Kingham to Indianapolis when he had pitched exceedingly well in his last 3 starts since being brought back up to Pittsburgh are all foolish maneuvers, and it's holding the club back from hopefully finding some footing. We'll see if they do, but there's not a lot to make you think that they can get everything going at the same time, bullpen, starting pitching, and offense, even if they did it for this one day today in Chicago.
I mean, for me, does it really matter what they do? I mean,
yes.
In what sense? I mean, they are 11-21 now against teams 500 or better.
Why are guys like Austin Meadows,
But why? I understand that. Well, let's see. There might be some Super 2. I think, who knows? I mean, who knows what's going on there? But they're not built to win this year, right?
Correct. So why is Sean Rodriguez getting at bats over, for example, Adam Frazier?
But I'm as confused about that as you are. But that being said, I mean, I don't want to say the season is sort of pointless, but I mean, they're not bad. I mean, they're not tanking, and they're not competitive. They're sort of in the middle, which is kind of the worst place to be, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know what move that they can make in either direction that's going to give them traction in either direction.
Well, I said at the start of this thing, once they got rid of Garrett Cole and McCutchen, that if you're going to go that way, go all the way. Don't do this sort of almost pregnant thing, which they're kind of rebuilding, but they're kind of trying to slop together 85 wins and get to the wild card. It's silly.
Well, but
like just Chris, why is Sean Rodriguez getting any at-bats? And you know what? I'll even go back and this is probably a radical thing, but why sign Corey Dickerson? Why not have Austin Meadows just become your left fielder and have Osuna up here, and you've got 2 of your young guys up here
because Corey
getting at-bats?
Dickerson was an all-star outfielder last year who basically they were
I understand
gifted
that, but
they had to make
that's
a move.
The kind of move.
They had to make some kind of
That's
move.
the kind of move you make if you think you're going to contend.
And it was a good move.
Wait. This is a guy, Corey Dickerson, who probably they're going to have to trade in the offseason because he's a free agent next year.
No, he's arbitration eligible.
Well, next year, or after next season,
if he hits 325, how expensive is he going to be, and are they going to?
Are they going to sign him?
Hold
up. Are they going to sign him to a 5 or 6 year deal?
No
Probably
idea.
not. Which means they're either going to trade him in the offseason or at the deadline next year. Which means you should have just had Meadows come up and fill the spot in left field, so he got a lot of experience, and then you could have Osuna. My point is, be a young team that's rebuilding, or be a team that's contending. They're kind of trying to do both, which doesn't work.
Well, no, there's an important distinction to be made. They don't need to go the Marlins or Rays route and completely tear the team down to the studs and start from scratch. They do have pieces they can succeed with. There's no reason they couldn't offer Corey Dickerson a 3-year extension on top of what he already has on his contract.
That's a choice. They just don't want to choose to make it.
Maybe they will. I don't know.
Chris, if you're Corey Dickerson and you're his agent, and you come off a season, what do you think he's going to hit? 320, something like that?
If he keeps it up all year.
Have the year that he's going to have. Are you going to accept a 3-year deal at 29 years old? Probably not. You're going to want 5 years at what the market is, which is probably 12, 14, $15 million. They're not going to do that.
All right, let's talk real quick about Kingham, because that's an interesting move. Chris, you brought it up. Will, I want to get your take on this. This is a guy, if you look at his whip and some of the other numbers, he had better numbers than the guys who are on. Now, I realize there are aren't a lot of guys completely tanking in the starting pitching rotation. However, no one has really taken the next step either. There are moves you could make if you believe this kid.
Well, what move would you make, Pomp? I mean, I think
Chad Kuhl. Chad Kuhl's been as erratic.
Chad Kuhl was okay yesterday.
I know, but he's okay one day and then he's not okay. Then
5 of his last 6 starts have actually been pretty good.
They're not terrible. Like the problem is the bullpen has gone back to being garbage.
Exactly.
Okay, so but Nick Kingham can't help you there. So what do? Do you move Kuhl into a late relief situation? Because I think that might be. I think
that's what I would do. I would help my own bullpen. I'd put Kuhl in the bullpen to help it, and I bring Kingham in the rotation to help that.
But he hasn't earned a demotion. I mean, I think Kingham's been good, but he hasn't been exceptional. He hasn't been Austin Meadows. He's been as good as the other guys. And when you've got
he's better than the other guys.
Which goes back to the point, why are you letting Ivan Nova take starts away from Kingham?
Because they have $33 million invested in him.
They owe him a lot of money. I understand that. But then my point is, either do it one way or do it the other. That's all.
All right, Jung Ho Kang will come into this equation now. He spent a successful stint down in Single A, although I would have been more concerned had he not had a successful stint in Single A. You're supposed to do that if you're him. He's going to Triple A. So, Chris, what's next? How soon will this happen, and who will it impact?
If he keeps hitting the way he hit in Bradenton, which is obviously a giant question, as you put it, Pomp, he should hit that way against Single A pitching, then I think they fast-track him. And I think part of the problem here is that they haven't gotten the production out of Rodriguez they would like. So Kang can come up here and be a backup left side of the infielder for you. And that's something they have to seriously consider if he does produce at AAA anything like he did down in Bradenton. And I think Sean Rodriguez has to be on notice. I think Adam Frazier has been put on notice by virtue of the fact they optioned him down to Indy today, even if it was just to make room for an emergency catcher in Jacob Stallings. And I think if David Freese, if some team has an injury that's in contention and is looking for a backup corner infielder, then David Freese could be on the move too.
I mean, to me, the most compelling thing about this, though, was the reception that he gets when he gets here, right? I mean, that's, last year they cheered. Starling Marte scuttled their entire season in April, and they gave him a standing ovation when he came back.
They did.
Okay, so but this is a different thing. I mean, look, the DUIs are nothing to take lightly. It's a different. People say, well, at least Starling was trying to cheat to win. This is a different thing. I am curious. It's almost like they're willing to swallow the PR hit if he can come up and hit 12 bombs in the second half.
I think there are 29 other teams that would swallow the PR hit if he comes up and hits 300 and it hits at a 20 home run pace.
Well, and I think the other thing is that the Pirates really want to make it work public relations-wise. They can do it real simple. On the press release, say, the Pirates have recalled Jung Ho Kang from Indianapolis, and to make room for him on the roster, they have DFA'd Sean Rodriguez. That probably right there would win the public relations war because you're getting rid of Sean Rodriguez. I think the other thing about it, though, is, you have to bring him up. If he does anything at all in AAA, you have to bring him up and put him on your team.
You can't have guys making $3 million in AAA, right? I mean, that just
right. And ultimately, look, for fans, if he produces at the plate and plays well, they're going to cheer for him.
But this is
and if he doesn't, they're going to boo him, and he'll get catcalls and jeers.
He doesn't have Starling's charisma. He doesn't have Starling's athleticism. I think in a way because he is from literally the other side of the world. He doesn't speak English. I think it's going to be he's a kind of a mysterious guy, and I think that is that's a barrier for fans to kind of get to him before this other stuff came up. I think it's just a hard sell. That being said, I mean, we see the attendance numbers and you see the way the club's going. Does it really matter? So maybe it doesn't matter.
We have to take a break here, and the Pirates, by the way, will be in Arizona tomorrow. First place Diamondbacks, although they're not as good. Goldschmidt, however, is going off the charts. We'll see that tomorrow night when Joe Musgrove gets to start. Meantime, I'm going to tell you, when an owner puts together a perfect team, they know it's going to be a winner. That must be how Rob Cochran feels right now about number one Cochran Nissan. Because number one Cochran just acquired Pittsburgh East Nissan and West Hills Nissan, giving them 3 local Nissan stores and Pittsburgh's first ever Nissan Super Group. The triple grand opening event is going on now with 3 times the pricing power, 3 times the inventory. You can find it all out at number one Cochran Nissan, Monroeville, West Hills, and South Hills. We'll be back with Washington Capitals talk next. The number one Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by number one Cochran, go one better, and by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.